I want you to picture a scene. It's a classic moment in almost every business movie ever made.
Right.
You've got the CEO standing in that big corner office, looking out at the skyline. It's late. Maybe there's a tumbler of scotch, and they have to make the big decision.
The master of the universe moment.
Exactly. Where do we build the new headquarters? Where do we break ground on the $100 million factory? And the assumption, what we've all been trained to believe, is that it comes down to a bidding war.
Right. City A offers a tax break. City B offers a bigger one.
City C just dries up with a dump truck full of cash. And the CEO just goes with the highest bidder. Show me the money, you know?
That is the intuitive answer. And honestly, it's how the media usually covers these stories. You see the headlines. Company X chooses Texas because of a $1 billion incentive package.
Yeah.
Paints this picture of business as just a mercenary game.
Just chasing the biggest check. But we're looking at some fascinating source material today that suggests that whole narrative is, well, it's not wrong exactly, but it's dangerously incomplete.
It might even be backward. It misses the real driver of the decision. We're doing a deep dive today based on a really compelling article from the Fulton County Industrial Development Agency, the FCIDA.
And their argument is, if you're a smart leader making a 10-year decision, that big check isn't number one. It might not even be in the top 3.
They introduced this idea called the ROI of certainty.
Which, I have to say, that phrase really stopped me in my tracks. Usually, ROI, return on investment, is about taking a risk, you know? You bet big to win big. But they're arguing the biggest return comes from knowing exactly what's going to happen.
It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? But to understand it, we have to get inside the head of that CEO. Or, even better, the CFO. We have to unpack the psychology of what the source calls the moment before the decision.
The source calls this the human side of expansion. And I really like that part because we tend to forget that corporations are just. They're collections of people who are generally terrified of messing up.
That's a blunt way to put it. But yeah, imagine the boardroom, spreadsheets are open, the capital, maybe $50, $100 million, is tentatively allocated. You've got a short list of 3 locations.
And the pressure is just crushing.
Yeah.
Because it's not just money, it's your reputation.
Precisely. If you pick a spot just for a huge tax break, but then the project gets stuck in permitting hell for 3 years, you don't look like a genius. You look incompetent for losing 3 years of production.
So the source draws this line between incentive size and execution confidence. If I hand you a check for $10 million, but I can't tell you when you can actually break ground.
That check is basically monopoly money. It's what financial analysts call a discount rate. You have to discount the value of that cash based on the probability of actually getting it done. The source argues the real question isn't how much can I gain, it's can we move forward without crashing?
So certainty is kind of like an anxiety medication for the C-suite?
In a way, yes. It stabilizes the leadership team. When you have certainty about timelines, infrastructure, taxes, the whole presentation to the board feels different. It changes from here's how we hope to survive the regulatory process to
here's exactly how we launch and dominate the market.
Exactly. It's offensive, not defensive.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of this because certainty can sound a little fluffy, like a LinkedIn buzzword, but the source material gets very specific, especially about time. They call it the speed of clarity.
Right. And there's a very specific metric they keep coming back to.
Yeah.
A 60, 90-day approval process.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Why 60 to 90 days? In the age of AI and like Amazon Crime, that still sounds kind of slow. Why not approved in 48 hours?
That is such a crucial distinction. The source really emphasizes the difference between rushed and structured. If a city tells you, I'll approve your factory in 48 hours, you should actually be very, very worried.
Because they haven't actually read the plans.
They haven't done the due diligence. And if they haven't done that, a neighbor can sue later. Or the EPA shows up in month 4 and shuts you down. Fast can be reckless. Structured means predictable. A 60 to 90-day window means there's a roadmap, they know the steps, and they know how long each one takes.
It's the difference between driving 100 miles an hour with a blindfold on versus driving 60 with a GPS on a clear road.
That's a perfect analogy. And just think about the downstream effects of knowing that timeline. The source calls it operational momentum. If I know with total certainty my permits will be cleared in exactly 90 days, what can I do right now?
You can schedule your contractors, which, I mean, anyone who's tried to renovate a kitchen knows this. If you miss your contractor's window, you aren't waiting a week, you're waiting 6 months.
Exactly. And in industrial construction, that carry cost is massive. If you have capital just sitting idle because you missed a construction window, you were just burning money. But it goes deeper. You can start hiring key staff, you can start training, you can order long lead equipment.
That was a real light bulb moment for me reading this. You can't order a $10 million custom assembly robot if you don't know if the building will be ready for it.
Those things don't fit in a storage unit, and you have to pay for them. And what about financing? Banks hate ambiguity even more than CEOs do. Financing closes without all those extra contingencies because the bank sees the timeline is real.
So the argument is clarity replaces hesitation.
And momentum replaces delay. And that momentum is worth real money. That's the ROI part. Time is the one thing you can't buy more of, but you can save it.
Speaking of money, we have to talk about taxes. The source has a whole section on the financials of predictability. This was interesting because usually when companies talk about taxes, they just want one thing: zero.
Sure, everyone wants zero. But the source makes a much more nuanced point. They argue that an expansion is a 10-year decision, not a one-year transaction.
Walk me through that. Why does the timeline change the thinking on taxes?
Okay, so you're the CFO again. You're building this complex financial model for your investors. You can plug in a huge tax break for year 1, great. But what about year 5, year 7, year 10? If the local government has a history of changing assessments or jacking up rates, your model is basically garbage.
It's volatility, and you can't model volatility.
Well, you can, but you have to price it in as risk, which just lowers the project's value. The FCIDA source argues that clear, multi-year tax schedules, they call them pilots, allow for precision. You know exactly what your check to the county will be in 2032.
And that links back to the robot, doesn't it? The source mentioned automation investments in this context, and I want to dig into that because it wasn't immediately obvious to me why tax rates impact whether I buy a robot.
It's a sophisticated point, but it's crucial for modern manufacturing. Automation is a massive capital expense, or CapEx. You spend millions up front, and you amortize it over years. For that math to work, you need to know your operating expenses. Your OPEX, which includes property taxes, won't suddenly spike.
Ah, I see. So if my taxes double in year 4, it just eats the margin that justified buying the robot in the first place.
Exactly. With a predictable cost structure, you can confidently invest in high-tech upgrades. It turns the whole investor conversation from, what if the local government raises taxes, to, how do we deploy this capital for maximum efficiency?
You stop playing defense against the bureaucracy and start playing offense in the market.
I like that,
Yeah.
playing offense.
Yeah.
Because the market right now, and the source talks about this context, is not exactly friendly.
No, it's not. They call the environment disciplined, which is a polite way of saying hard.
Right. The era of free money is over. Capital is measured, labor is tight, supply chains are scrutinized. You can't just throw money at problems anymore.
You can't afford to be sloppy.
You can't afford maybe. And this leads to what I think is the most biting critique in the whole piece.
Yeah.
They distinguish between promotional language and execution.
Oh, I loved this part. Because every city, every county has that glossy brochure, right? We're open for business. Innovation lives here. It's all stock photos of people in hard hats shaking hands.
It's marketing fluff. The source argues that in this market, regions that offer actual execution beat the ones offering slogans.
Okay.
It's the difference between saying, we'd love to have you, and saying, here's the permit, here's the site plan, here's the power grid capacity, sign here.
It's product versus promise.
And that leads to the compounding effect of confidence. This is where the ROI really shows up.
Okay, break that down for me. How does confidence compound?
Well, think about those small wins. You get a faster internal approval because the timeline is clear. That's a win. You get better financing because the bank trusts the schedule. That's another win. You order your equipment early, so you beat a supply chain bottleneck. Win.
And suddenly you're launching 6 months ahead of your competitor.
Right. And because you launch early, you secure market share. Because you have market share, you have better cash flow. It all stacks. Over a decade, those initial moments of certainty turn into a massive competitive advantage.
And that's where the source says this shifts the focus from troubleshooting to innovation.
Yes. Think about the brain power of a leadership team. It's a finite resource. Do you want your CEO spending 20 hours a week arguing with the zoning board? Or do you want them spending that time figuring out your next product line?
Opportunity cost, the invisible killer.
Exactly. The gain isn't just measured in dollars saved. It's measured in growth achieved because you weren't distracted by red tape.
The return on confidence.
That's the real ROI.
So we've been talking very conceptually, but I want to ground this. What does this actually feel like? When you walk into a room, the source has this great section, What Certainty Feels Like.
It's almost a sensory description of a business deal, which you don't see very often.
They list a few things. First, a site visit where every answer is backed by documentation.
That's huge.
Yeah.
You ask, where's the water line? They don't say, oh, it's down the road. They pull out a blueprint and say, it terminates at this junction 50 feet from your property line with this much capacity.
A permitting roadmap that acts as a calendar, not a suggestion. I feel like anyone who's dealt with the city planning department is just nodding along right now.
It has to be binding. And another one, a single point of contact who understands the project start to finish.
The concierge model. Instead of me calling the water department, then the road department, then the tax assessor, I just call Dave.
And Dave handles it. When you have all that, the docs, the calendar, the contact, the source says the whole feeling shifts. Expansion stops feeling like risk management, which is defensive and scary.
And starts feeling like the next logical step.
Yes, it implies flow. It implies inevitability. It removes the fear.
Now, since we are diving into this specific source from the Fulton County IDA, we should talk about how they claim to apply this. They aren't just writing philosophy, they're managing real estate.
Correct. They highlight their approach, preparation, partnership, and follow-through. And they list specific assets. They call them shovel-ready sites.
But we hear shovel-ready all the time. It's another one of those buzzwords. Does the source clarify what that actually means?
They do. And it goes right back to that documentation point. They list sites like Tryon Technology Park and Johnstown Industrial Park. And for these sites, shovel-ready doesn't just mean it's a flat field. It means the infrastructure is already in the ground.
The invisible stuff, the sewer, water, fiber optics.
The expensive, time-consuming stuff. The pitch is, we've done the pre-work, we've taken the risk out of the ground so you don't have to.
It's interesting, they frame themselves almost like a product developer. They're not just selling land, they're selling a lack of headaches.
In a world where volatility is the enemy, certainty is the product, they are selling speed.
And they mention coordinated workforce partnerships too, which I assume is code for, we know where you're going to find your employees.
Exactly. It's not just, here's the land, good luck hiring. It's, here's the local community college, here's the training program we can set up, here's the pipeline. Again, just removing the variable, removing the maybe.
So if we zoom out, for you, the listener who might be a business owner, or maybe just someone interested in how your own city grows, what's the bottom line here?
The summary in the source creates this really powerful logic chain. Look, sophisticated leaders still value incentives. Nobody turns down free money.
Let's be real. If you're offering cash, I'll take it.
Of course. But they prioritize clarity.
Yeah.
And the formula they present is, clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates alignment, meaning the board, the bank, the whole team is on the same page.
Clarity, confidence, alignment.
Alignment creates momentum.
Yeah.
And momentum creates growth.
It's a virtuous cycle.
And it suggests that the regions that will win in this economy aren't the ones writing the biggest checks. They're the ones offering the best structure. You're stuck with that community for 20 years, you better trust them.
So let's leave our listener with a toolkit. If you're looking at an expansion or maybe just judging a project in your own hometown, what should you be asking?
The source gives great advice here. Number one, look past the headline incentive. That's the trap.
Ignore the giant novelty check.
Look at the fine print. Ask about the timeline structure. Is it written down? Is there a penalty if the city misses a deadline?
Ooh, that's a good one. Skin in the game.
Ask for infrastructure documentation. Don't settle for planned. Ask for as-builts. Show me it's actually there. And ask about long-term tax clarity. Is this rate guaranteed for 5 years, 10? Or can it change on a whim?
And asked about the human side, right? Who is my phone call?
Exactly. Is it a partnership or a bureaucracy? If you can't get a straight answer on those things, that is a massive red flag.
It really makes you wonder, if a region can't give you that certainty, if they aren't willing to offer that transparency, what are they hiding?
That is the provocative question, isn't it? If they won't give you certainty, what volatility are they hiding in the fine print? Are they hiding a budget crisis? Failing infrastructure?
It completely changes how you look at a construction site. It's not just dirt and steel. It's a monument to certainty. If it's getting built, it means someone, somewhere, felt safe enough to push the button.
And in this economy, feeling safe might just be the most valuable asset you can have.